Hey, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co., and this is another Week in Review, the weekly show where we go over the videos of the week, the games on the table, what I want to play, game news, all the kinds of stuff, topic of the week, timestamps as usual in the bar down below. And starting off, and I think this one will be a shorter one than usual, and I think that just primarily because I'm not as on top of the general news stuff as I usually am, just because I've been gone the whole week. I've been on vacation with my family, which means I haven't been on the internet quite as much, which means I haven't seen the post here and the post there and the thing there and the this there. I'm a little bit behind, so it'll be slightly shorter. I say that now, as usual. That means you can go ahead and check the bar, and it'll be 47 minutes long. But either way, let's go ahead and check into this. Starting off with general news. First of all, there's two videos I watched that are, one's unrelated to board games, and one's related to board games and actually pretty old, but two videos I watched that I thought are great watches, and I highly recommend them. The first is a video, a bit of a YouTube documentary, 2.5 hours long, called The Line Goes Up. It's a documentary that I saw posted from the Undead Viking actually posted it, and I saw that and I thought it was fantastic. And it's basically a little bit of a documentary about NFTs and cryptocurrency. It covered a lot of things I knew already and clarified a lot of things that I couldn't explain as well, and taught me a lot of things that I didn't yet know. But it's a general conversation around the nature of cryptocurrencies, around the nature of NFTs, around the general bubble nature of it, and the fact that currently, I'm not saying it will never have a use one day, it may have a use one day, but right now, they're just all being sold in the idea of the potential future of tomorrow. It's all a bubble. It's all buying it so that the line goes up so you can sell it to the next person. It doesn't actually have a functional value. And before you sit there and say, no, but this, I know all the reasons it's supposed to have a functional value. I highly recommend watching the video first. And if you still think the video's wrong, then go ahead and add the but this then. Because I know the background of cryptocurrency. I know the background of NFTs. I know what the theory behind them all is. But for right now, they're primarily being sold just so that the line goes up. Highly recommend the documentary. It's absolutely fascinating. I was riveted. I had to stop doing what I was doing. I had to pause it because I was trying to do it in the background and I couldn't. I had to actually focus on it. Anyways, that's that. Secondly, another riveting but less, more board game related but an older video is the history of the Dice Tower. The Dice Tower just had their Kickstarter, and I saw a comment somebody saying, hey, they just watched the whole history of the Dice Tower. And I was like, wait a second, I missed that video. I thought it was posted that week. It wasn't. It was posted like 2 years ago, but I had missed it somehow. So it's a 3.5 hour long video of the history of the Dice Tower. Strictly speaking, it was different segments, but it's all put together in one video for your viewing ease. And it's 3.5 hours of basically a 20-year history, roughly 20-year history of the Dice Tower, of how Tom started, what happened, the whole process, the fact that there were lots of things I knew there. There were also lots of things I never really knew. I didn't know that Tom Vasel did written reviews for years before moving to video. My first introduction, my only introduction to Dice Tower, was his video. I knew he had a podcast, that part I knew. I did not know that he spent years on written reviews first. But either way, lots of fun things in that video, in case you're interested. It's more than just the Dice Tower, really. It's also a history, to a certain extent, of the board game space, of the evolution of the board game space. And it's, I don't know, I'm definitely biased because as someone who does content and puts out content, I see it from that side of things as well, and I see how much they've paved the pathway for others like myself to simply just get up and do a video and just have an easy time doing so without having to figure out what the space actually looks like, because we didn't make the space. He was part of the people that made the space. He's not the only one. There were others along with him, other people who have been doing content for a long time, but he's definitely a combination of the oldest one and the one who's still doing it, the combination of those two. Like Board Games with Scott Nicholson, I believe he still does videos here and there, but they're definitely infrequent. He used to be very big in the space. But either way, if you're interested in content creation in general, if you're interested in the history of board games, I highly recommend the history of the Dice Tower. I thought it was a fantastic watch. Another 3.5 hours of my life well spent. That one I was able to watch in the background, but it was still pretty solid. From there we have game news, board game news, starting off with a variety of different things, different Kickstarters, announcements, dates, all those things. We have Libertalia, The Winds of Sail. This is something that was rumored a while ago because Stonemaier Games had registered the trademark for Libertalia, and people were like, what's going on, what's happening? Well, now we officially know what's happening. They're doing a reprinted, revised version of Libertalia. So they are changing aspects of the game. It's not going to be the exact same game, but it's going to maintain many aspects of Libertalia, which has me interested, because I always liked Libertalia. It's a game I had for a long time. It's also a game I moved on from eventually because I found that in its current form, we got a little bit locked into certain aspects of groupthink. So I like the concept a lot, but the actual game is one that probably a 3.5 out of 5 for me in its current state. But I'm very curious. The Stonemaier Games, the Winds of Sail version of it, could be better. It could be in a better game, or it could be worse, or it could be the exact same, and I won't know till I try it, but I'm definitely planning on trying that at some point. We have Far Cry. Far Cry announced their Far Cry, not the video game, the board game. They announced this is coming from Funforge, the same people who did Monumental, Tokaido, a bunch of other games. But Far Cry, they announced that they're going to be coming to Kickstarter in early March. I got the little like, hey, because I assume because I've backed Monumental, I'm on their email list, and I was like, hey, you can sign up for the Kickstarter, and that's going to be in early March. So if you want to jump on the Far Cry bandwagon, I myself am less excited than I was when I first heard, primarily because there was an article from, I can't remember the site. I always reference them. A lot of my news links are from them, but I can't remember the name of the site, but one of the sites that does lots of board game news that I can't remember what it is, but either way, they had a whole article, they had a chance to try it out at a convention, and they were thrown off by what it was presenting. And I find myself in a similar camp. It's not that I don't think Far Cry is a potentially good game, it's that it doesn't look like Far Cry, and that has me completely thrown off from being that interested. So I'm cautiously interested in it. I was very interested before, because I like Far Cry the video game, but we'll see. We have The Captain is Dead, The Problem with Priggles. This is an expansion from AEG. They have The Problem with Priggles. Okay, for an expansion for The Captain is Dead. In case you don't know, that's probably a play on words on The Trouble with Tribbles, The Problem with Priggles, so no suing there. But either way, that's going to be an expansion to The Captain is Dead, a game that I still haven't played. I really should dive into it at some point, I just never got to the table. It's one of those games that time has passed on, and now I'm focusing on the games I love and the new games coming in, and I missed some of those games. Every once in a while I get one of those played. Every once in a while I play an older game, and I'm like, wow, I was missing out. But either way, we have R2I Games, the same people who brought you Canvas, the board game. They're coming out with a new 3D flip and write game. 3D in the sense that you're flipping and writing, so you're going to be flipping cards and then writing things down, but you're writing it down on a globe. You're tracing a line on a globe as you move along. So gimmicky, but gimmicky in a way that might be interesting. So I'm paying attention to that one. We have Elder Scrolls. Elder Scrolls Betrayal of the Second Era. This is going to be the Chip Theory Games project. Speaking of which, Chip Theory Games also just did a new logo, but I don't know if that's important enough for anyone to care, past Chip Theory Games and other people, maybe, I don't know. But either way, they have their video. If you want a 2.5, 3-minute long video on their Elder Scrolls game that's coming up, they have the Betrayal of the Second Era, and it's a little bit of a video that tells you nothing and some things at the same time. I walked away with a little bit of information, but nothing that really drove home what the experience is going to be like. Just like a little, I mean, it's fun. I recommend watching it. I do recommend watching it. I just can't say I walked away like that well informed, comparatively speaking. And then lastly, the Gamebrewer. Gamebrewer, they had a little image of, something coming March 14th. So Gamebrewer will have the next campaign coming to GameFound, I believe, March 14th. More information I do not yet have. And that's going to be everything with game news, which brings us to Topic of the Week. Topic of the Week. Topic of the Week this week is an interesting one about assumptions, and it's specifically because of something that happened to me while I was on vacation. And it led to mine, well, two things happened, and then I kind of found other things to expand outwards from there because it's something I've thought about here and there. But it's the nature of assumptions, and this is not board game specific. It was triggered by a few things that are board game related. I added some things that are content creation related, or not really content creation and Kickstarter related, but I made it about board games, but it's not really about board games. And it's about the nature of assumptions. There's nothing game-changing here. I'm just going to go over a few basic assumptions. I'll actually add a fifth. I'll add a fifth one. It's about the nature of just assumptions and how they bias our worldview to different degrees in different ways. And I'll start with the fifth one, so I don't forget it. The fifth one is one that Rodney Smith from Watch Your Played once said, when he was talking about negative comments on videos. Where he's saying there's this one time where early on when he was doing videos where he got this particularly nasty comment on a video, and he's just sitting there thinking about like how that comment, about how wrong that comment was. And then at one point he decided to click through to the profile, and he saw that the person who left the comment had their own profile and their own videos, and there was some like 10-year-old kid. And it was like this mindset of, he had been sitting there looking at this comment and thinking, wow, like, what a hurtful, problematic thing to say. Not necessarily to let it get to him. Rodney Smith has always been amazing at focusing on the positive as opposed to the negative, focusing on the 99 people that like you as opposed to the 1% that doesn't. But nonetheless, it was, he looked into it and was like, this person who he projected to be an adult wasn't. And that took a lot of this sting out of it. Is it still a problematic thing? Absolutely it's a problematic thing. Should the person be saying it 10 or not? No, they shouldn't be saying it 10 or not. But sometimes we have this nature of projecting assumptions into the world that bias our worldview. In this particular case, the comment came from somebody who he projected an adult's opinion and therefore the emphasis that an adult's opinion would have, and really it was a kid. with no anything. That's it. Just a kid. Nothing to go off of. And it really changed his perception of the comment. Again, it's just the nature of how an assumption can bias our full entire worldview of an event that is happening. Another example of this, and this is something that there's a great, if I can find it, I'll try to find it, but this is a regular concept in Kickstarters. In Kickstarters, we have this concept of the loud minority. And it's not just in Kickstarters, I'll get it in YouTube comments as well, in anywhere where there's people who are expressing opinions. The loud minority is always going to bias our assumptions. The loud minority is the idea that you have, and we see this in Kickstarters. Actually, speaking of Monumental, let's bring Monumental to the table as a good idea of this. Monumental had a miniatures pledge, okay? And then they had a token pledge. And when they brought back their Kickstarter African Empires, there were tons of people who were screaming and shouting that, why did you get rid of the chip pledge? We want the chip pledge. And the reason they got rid of it is because there were only a handful of people that backed it the first time. But people were insistent, no, we need this pledge, we need this, we're going to back this pledge. I can't believe that you're abandoning your previous people. And then they added that pledge, and there were like 15 people that picked it up. There were not a lot of people that ended up grabbing that expansion, and they were a very vocal minority. That happens a lot in Kickstarters. It happens a lot in YouTube comments. It happens a lot anywhere where you ask for opinions. A lot of people, most often the people who are satisfied or happy with the status quo, don't chip in. They don't add their opinion or their voice to the conversation. The people who do are often both the people who are most dissatisfied by the very nature of what they're adding their voice to the conversation, and additionally, they're not always going to actually do anything based on what you did. You can sit there and change your entire game, your entire pledge structure, your entire whatever it is to suit a very vocal minority, and you may end up actually losing some of your current hardcore backers, and from the people who complained, many of them may not even bother doing anything with that complaint. They're like, oh great, glad you changed it. We didn't like it the way it was. Are you backing it? No. Why would I back it? And that can happen a lot. It's that, again, the idea of the assumption that the vocal minority brings more weight to the table can bias your worldview. You can sit there and think, wow, I messed up. I made a mistake. I can't believe I did this. Look how everyone is, reacting to this. A good example in my case is going to be the nature of my 5-point reviews. 1 to 5 as a review structure as opposed to 1 to 10. I get more comments asking why I'm doing 1 to 5. Why don't I just do 1 to 10? And yet when I actually asked for an opinion in a poll, most people wanted 1 to 5. But those people aren't commenting because they're already getting what they want. So again, it's the nature of the vocal minority and how that can bias our perception of what actually is or isn't going on in the world. The third incident is one that was one of the things that triggered this topic of the week, which is assumptions about an individual. And this is part of the Tom Vassell History of the Dice Tower video. It happened as part of that, where I'm not going to go into the details because I'm not here to throw shade at anyone, but there was one particular person in the video that came up at a certain point, and clearly Tom didn't have the highest opinion of that person. I'm not saying it was a negative opinion. It wasn't. It didn't come across as negative, but it certainly came across as Tom didn't have the highest opinion of that person. And additionally, based on one other thing that I know, I found one other person that didn't have the highest opinion of that person. Okay, so we have Tom, one other person who I respect, who didn't have the highest opinion, and then a third thing where that person posted something that put him at odds with the second person. Apologies for being intentionally vague. But the net result is I had two people who didn't have the highest opinion of the person, and a third and the person themselves who posted something putting themselves at odds with person 2 who I respect. And that led me to have a very low opinion of this this real person without knowing anything else. Without having ever interacted with the person, without anything else going on at the table, I just have 3 data points, and I already have a very negative opinion of this person. Which I can both justify, but also it's an interesting and weird assumption. Its a justification is the fact that if you sit there, if I like person A and I have a high opinion of person A, and you pit yourself against person A, I already have a lower opinion of you. But I should need more, right? I should need more data points than just that. I have 3 data points, and without having ever met the person, I'm already partially writing them off. Which is wrong. And I shouldn't be doing that. I should take those things into account, don't get me wrong. I should add them to my mental library of facts when I interact with this person in the future, if I ever do. I don't imagine I ever would. There's no reason I would. But it's just interesting about the idea of how quickly we can form opinions and biases around things, and again, the nature of assumptions. A fourth thingy is the idea of seeing every video. a problem I have on a regular basis is the balance of how to present content in a way that both is good for the people who are watching my videos who don't watch every video, but also good for the people who watch every video. Because I have this inherent assumption that everyone's watching all the videos. A good example would be that I have this video series that I'm a little behind on, actually, because life has been busy recently, but I have this video series I try to do every month where I talk about the reviews from the last month. And I'm always confused why that gets views every single time. Like, it does fairly well. It's a well-liked video series. It gets a lot of views on it, and people clearly watch it. And I'm always confused why, because I'm like, I'm just saying stuff I've said before. But I'm not, because I'm saying stuff I've said before to people who watch every video. For a large portion of people that skip over half my reviews, which I know my reviews in general, unless it's a big Kickstarter game, my reviews in general are my lowest watched content. And so it's not the first time, it's not the third time someone's seeing information about those games. It's the first time because if they didn't watch those videos. And so again, it's the nature of assumptions. Assumptions bias me towards the type of content I would create, the type of videos I would make, film, whatever, and all that, and I need to be wary of those assumptions. And the last one, which is the trigger for this entire conversation. When I went on vacation with my family, one of the days I was out, I wore a Board Game Geek t-shirt, okay? And the reason I wore that is twofold. One is it's comfortable and I like it, and I like the color scheme in particular. I'll wear it in a future video at some point. But the other reason is I was like, I like the idea of kind of, you know, seeing who reacts or sees me or sees Board Game Geek and it's like, that's one of my people. I like the idea of that. And sure enough, I caught one. Caught one is the wrong terminology, but at one point, someone who worked at this place my family and I were at, so they're an employee there, they were scanning our badge, passing us through, and they commented, "Oh, I love Board Game Geek. I have 600 games." And I was like, "Oh, that's awesome. Let's start a conversation." And so then I said, "What are your favorite games?" And they said, what did she say? She said Wingspan and Trekking the National Parks, or Trekking the World, one of those two games. I can't remember which one it was. So it was either Trekking the World or Trekking the National Parks. And we had a small little conversation, great, moved on, and just parted ways. Little fun conversation about board games. And then I spent the next 15 minutes thinking, I mean, I still walking around doing my thing, but I was thinking about the fact that it was interesting to me that someone who had 600 games would pick those two games as their, like, games to talk about. In my head, I was like, and nothing wrong with that. Maybe you have 600 games and your favorite games are Wingspan and Trekking the National Park. Totally reasonable. But in my head, the people who have 600 games have heavier games. You could absolutely have 300 copies of Monopoly, 100 copies of this, 200 copies of that. Anyone could have whatever collection they want and it's fine. But I was just a little thrown off by 600 games and Wingspan and Trekking the National Parks, which are both fine games, by the way, just not what I would have thought of. And then halfway through the day, I realized all of a sudden, and by the way, I still don't know what the actual truth of anything is, but I realized all of a sudden halfway through the day, maybe those aren't their favorite games. Maybe their favorite games are Twilight Imperium, and Twilight Struggle, and Terraforming Mars, and Brass Birmingham, and Food Chain Magnet. But the only thing they know about me is that I'm wearing a shirt that says Board Game Geek. They don't know what I know. Maybe they picked lighter games because they thought that was my experience level. That was their way of saying, oh, like, hey, these are games. Like, if I was talking to people, I wouldn't start with Blood Rage. If I saw someone who was into board games, I'd be like, yeah, like Catan, Ticket to Ride, Small World. I'd start working my way up the chain, Pandemic, and then try to have a conversation around those. Again, I still don't know what actually happened. It could be that their favorite games are Wingspan and Trekking the National Park, and that's totally fine. It could be they have a collection of 600 games, and they're all whatever, and it's all fine. I just found it interesting that it took me half the day to realize that maybe they made an assumption about me, and because of that, I was now making an assumption about them. I just thought it was interesting. On the side point, by the way, I just like meeting people who like board games, so I'm going to try wearing that shirt whenever I'm in public now. But either way, that is just the nature of assumptions. A little conversation around. The main two things were, because they happened this week, was I was watching the Dice Tower video, and I was at the park, and that just led me to start thinking about assumptions and connecting the dots and all these interesting and different things. In any case, from there, let's go ahead into the week in review, starting off with what I played. There's no takeaway, by the way. There's no takeaway from this conversation. This is just, it's just assumptions. Anyways, let's go ahead. Let's go into the week in review, what I played. What I played this week is lower than a usual week. A much, much shorter week than usual, particularly because I was on vacation this whole week, and I didn't actually get to play very many games. Played a few, but not very many. So, starting off the bat, got in some plays of Trekking the World. Speaking of which, unrelated, I got in some plays of Trekking the World last week. Got in a play of Bus. Oh my gosh, Bus is fantastic. Bus from Capstone Games and from from Splatter Games. It was the reprint version. I got to play with Quackalope, with Jesse and Shira. Really enjoyed that game. Sorry. Looking forward to getting more plays in. We got a few plays of a Granja Master Set. Granja. I got a lot of corrections, because I think I said Grana. Did I say Grana? I don't even know what I said. But Granja Master Set, we played the Deluxe Master Set a few times, gotten a few plays of some of the modules in the base game. I've played the original, but it's been a long time. You can check that out. That was a review that went up on the channel. Gotten a play of Unsettled. Unsettled over here, there's a reason it's on the table in terms of the games I hope to play this weekend. Unsettled is absolutely fantastic. Amazing experience. Really, really looking forward to diving back into it. And yes, I will have a review, and yes, I am spoiling it because I don't even care. Now, to be fair, maybe I had a great first experience, but what I will say about Unsettled is I actually walked into Unsettled expecting not to like it. Because again, speaking of Tom Vassell, speaking of the Dice Tower, the specific reasons why he didn't like it, and I think the Dice Tower overall gave it positive reviews, but Tom gave it like a 5, I think. A 5 out of 10, not a 5 out of 5. And the specific reasons he gave made me feel like I wouldn't like the game because those reasons resonated with me. And also, I tend to align with Tom in a lot of his opinions. Not all, but a lot of them. And so I thought this would be a game that was not for me. I loved my first play of Unsettled. I need more plays, and now I'm worried that I'm setting up for some sort of hype, and subsequent plays will bring it a bit down. But where it is right now, I like this game a lot. Anyways, we'll talk about it more. I'll be getting more plays in because I want to review it before the next Kickstarter goes up. February 22nd, I think is when it goes up. Either way, more plays of Granja Deluxe Master Set. Play of It's a Wonderful Kingdom. We'll be talking about that more. I want to get more plays of that one in. Suffice to say, I'm not excited enough about it to be like, wow, it's amazing, and I'm reviewing it, and I don't even care. No, I have opinions, I have thoughts, we'll talk about it. I got a play of My Little Scythe with the Pie in the Sky expansion. Got a play of New York Zoo in. Got some Wreckland Run in. That's going to be an upcoming Kickstarter as well, the newest game in the solo series. We'll talk about that as well. And then got in some plays of Trekking Through History, which is currently on Kickstarter right now, and I'll have a video coming up of that at some point soon. That's it. Very short week, like 10 games or 10 plays. Not 10, like 7 games and like 12 plays, which is short for me. Usually I get like 2.5 plays a day on average. Anyways, that's what vacation will do to you. Some vacations I go to play games. This vacation was with my family, which means I was lucky to just get sleep in. Anyways, moving on from there into the weekend review, starting off with Saturday. Saturday, I reviewed a few games, 2 games. I reviewed 10 from AEG. I gave that one a 3 out of 5. I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. I liked it, but also I like other games in that genre better. I gave specific examples in that video. You can check that out. I've also reviewed Awkward Guess. Gave that one a 3.5 out of 5. I really enjoyed Awkward Guess. I feel that some of the deduction aspect that can come down to just having card cycling and a little bit victim to luck. I really like the engine of deduction. I think it's brilliant. I just wish there was a little bit more gameplay mechanics as far as how you actually got that information, as opposed to just passing things around and hoping for the best. Then on Sunday. Then on Sunday, we had all the late pledges. A video going over all the late pledges. I haven't done one of these in several months. I usually try to aim for every 3 months. I think it was like 5 or 6 months since the last time. But yeah, these are a regular video series on the channel where I go over all open late pledges, or not all, many open late pledges, because at any given point there's like 200 open late pledges for word games, and I can't do that many. So I do like 100 and try to call it a day. Then on Monday I had top 10 Kickstarter campaigns of 2021 with Thinker Themer. Basically, we both brought to the table our 10 favorite Kickstarter campaigns, the games we enjoyed, the campaigns, not the games, the campaigns we enjoyed the most. My number 1 was Core Quest, because Core Quest was such a heartwarming story. It was both a success and a good game, as well as feeling like a startup of what Kickstarter is meant for. Because at the end of the day, I'm fine with the commands of this world being on Kickstarter, and I'm totally fine with it. I'll back their games, I enjoy their games, I don't care. But it is nice to see someone who doesn't have that resources, that company behind them. It's nice to see first-time creators really do well on the platform, and many of the picks from both myself and Thinker Themer did lean into that idea of prioritizing first-time creators seeing success, because it made us enjoy the experience more. Not necessarily the games more, but the experience more, although in my case, I picked Oros and Core Quest as some of my first-time creator ones, and definitely enjoy those games plenty. On Tuesday, I had a review for Rolling Heights. It was a review with myself, Quackalope, and Jesse and Shira, basically. A 3-way review covering Rolling Heights. So my wife sadly was not able to make it for that one. I say sadly because she might like Rolling Heights more than any of us. But we all liked it. We all enjoyed it. I can't remember what Jesse gave it. I give it a 4 out of 5. I think Shira gave it a 4.5 out of 5. It was on a 10-point scale. It was something we were experimenting with from, we filmed it months ago, because it was one of those games that was delayed in terms of the content, but we had it at a certain point, and we had to send on the prototype. Either way, Rolling Heights is going to be coming to Kickstarter shortly. Really, really enjoyed that one. On Tuesday, no, that's still Tuesday. We're already on Tuesday. On Tuesday later, we had Small Islands review from Lucky Duck Games. I gave it a 3 out of 5. I enjoyed it, but also didn't stand out like 10 or from earlier from AEG. It's a game that I was totally fine with, happy to play again, but am not going to be requesting myself. There are other games that I enjoy more, and like 10, I have those games in the recommendation section in the end of the video. Then lastly on Tuesday, we had the review for Granja Master Set, where I gave it a 4 out of 5, Shira gave it a 4 out of 5, Jesse gave it a 3 out of 5, all of us believing it has the potential to go up from where it is, based on the modules and what it does. Ironically, one of the things we wanted was something called, we wanted like an overpowered roof module, and they gave us the broken roofs module, which when I first saw it in the campaign, I was like, great, they gave us what we wanted, the broken roofs. I was thinking like, it's broken because of how overpowered it is. No, they're actually just broken roofs. They're roofs that are cheaper, but give you nothing, which is not what I wanted. I want the overpowered roofs module. Plus, we're going to be adding drafting to our games. But either way, I like Granja a lot. I thought it was a fun game. I think the modules will add more to the gameplay experience, but I think if the modules don't improve the game for me, then it's going to be a fun game that I, again, get rid of eventually. Like, right now, 4 out of 5 is good, don't get me wrong, but when it comes to Euros, they take up so much time, energy, and attention that I usually only play ones that are 4.5 or higher. Those are the ones that stay in my collection, the ones that are really solidly amazing for me. Now I'm in my head thinking about all the 4s out of 5s that I keep. I don't know, there's like lots of Feld games that might be 4 out of 5s for me, but I find them accessible enough. I don't know. We'll focus on that another time. Either way, Wednesday we had building a travel bag. I did a video putting together my ideal travel bag, primarily because on Kickstarter they have the board game tables, bags, and playmats available, and I wanted to go ahead and put together my own little travel bag, which is what I generally travel with when I travel. It's just putting it up full of games, going over the types of games I usually add, depending on who I'm interacting with and why, what I have in mind, and that was my video for Wednesday. For Thursday we had the final video for Marvel Zombies, all the updates. I say final, but I'll probably have another one next week. But all the updates for Marvel Zombies covering, well, everything. All the optional buys, all the stuff. Later next week, I'll probably have a video explaining why I spent as much as I did on Marvel Zombies. Yes, it's a justification video. I'm okay with it. I'm okay with what I spent on Marvel Zombies. I'll talk about it in that video. We'll save that for another time. But either way, Thursday was a video covering all the updates, all the stuff, all the optional buys, what pledge levels I think make the most sense depending on what your personal priorities are. There's a lot of stuff I'm very excited about. And dozens and dozens and dozens. I think there's 80 plus stretch goals at this point. Looks like we're drifting closer to 85 as the day goes on. In fact, as I film this, we have like 5, as I'm filming this right now, we have like 4 or 5 hours left in the campaign. And it looks, I'm not certain, it looks like this might be the most funded Command campaign ever, I think. The highest backer count. I have to take a look. I know that in terms of Zombicide, the highest backer count until now was Green Horde. And I think this might actually cross that number. I don't know about all the other Command campaigns, but very exciting to see. It's definitely their highest funded, but as far as the backer count, it might be the most number of backers as well. And I'm happy for everyone who gets their hands on the game. I really enjoy it. It's my favorite Zombicide system yet. And again, I was skeptical, to be very clear. I was definitely skeptical. I thought I would get it no matter what, but that I'd expect it to be let down, and I'm not. It's a lot of fun. Then on Friday we had Games Leaving the Collection, another one of those, Games Leaving the Collection in January, I guess, covering a few different options. We had Dominant Species, we had Lord of the Rings Confrontation. Dominant Species is one that I really wanted to love, and sadly was only okay with, and Lord of the Rings Confrontation is an old favorite that I haven't pulled out and played in way too long, and at a certain point I have to question if I ever really am pulling it out. Which brings us to today. Today's videos are tentative. I say tentative because I before I left town, I prepped videos, so I have everything going just in case. The downside of leaving town is you have to film like 10 extra videos in advance. But either way, I have videos prepped for today. As of right now, those videos are going to be reviews for Garinto and Lorenzo il Magnifico. I don't know if they'll for sure be the ones going up. It depends what else, because I have a whole bunch of stuff I'm trying to get done today to get ahead of the game, and there are specific videos I'm trying to get up. So for instance, a good example would be trekking through history. I hope to have my video up for there on Saturday, but it depends. So as of right now, today is still up in the air. Maybe a Garinto, maybe Lorenzo il Magnifico, maybe other stuff depending on what I actually get accomplished today. Which brings us to next week. Next week, we have a few different things. We have why I spent so much money on Marvel Zombies, which, again, will be a justification to myself video, but also, like, an interesting conversation. Like, I think it really genuinely is. I think, like, in my video about Marvel Zombies, I spent a lot of time focusing on how you don't have to get it all, and how there's a lot of reasons why you shouldn't get it all, and here are the ways you can save money, and here's the best bang for your buck. I tried focusing on those things. But I'm going to be one of several thousand people who are spending over $500 on Marvel Zombies. And I think it's not the craziest thing ever. I think it makes sense within the context of a conversation, and we're going to have that conversation because I like doing these kinds of things. I like both sides of things. I like the counter FOMO, but I like the stuff. And talking about why I like the stuff and why I'm willing to spend money on the stuff, I think it's an interesting part of the conversation. Which lastly brings us to games on the table. These are some of the games I hope to get tabled this week. Some of these are definitely happening, others we'll find out. I hope to get another play of Panorama in. Not another play, a first play of Panorama in. I heard good things about this one from Quacklope, so they're going to teach it to me. Wreckland Run, still diving through this one, going through it slowly and trying to, it's a campaign effectively, a little mini campaign, like 7 interlinked stories. I've already gone through the first 2. I hope to dive more into this one. We have My Farm Shop, which from Pegasusville, I hope to dive into this one. This is likely the least likely one from the games on the table to actually see play, but I read the rules and prepped. I'm good to go. Now I just need to play it. And then Unsettled, which I better play, or I'm just going to break it out solo and play it solo, because this was such a ridiculously fantastic experience. At this point, it can only go down. That's not true, actually. It could go up, but my first play was so good. It was so good. I can't imagine it holds up. But I will be diving into a whole bunch of planets in a whole bunch of different player counts. My first play is at 3 players. I plan on diving into it at solo and 2 players. I don't feel the need to play it at 4. But solo and 2 players, I'll be diving into it as well, so I can get a feel for the experience. Very, very excited for this one. It was so good. I'm sorry, it was so good. I apologize. I will be hyping this game a lot because I really, really enjoyed it. In any case, that is the week in review. That's all the stuff. And until next time, this video was longer than I thought it would be, but not the 47-minute mark, so we're all fine there. Until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. I hope you have as much fun this weekend as I plan on. And as always, have a good one.